So what is going on, my people? How do you become a master motivator? That is what we are talking about here on this live workshop. So pumped to share this information with you guys. If you guys have ever been the type of person where you just hear people all the time talking about they just need to be motivated, they want to get themselves to take more action, right? Or if you've been that person where you're like, I just wish I was more motivated and inspired more consistently, then today is the call for you. Because we all know that when it comes to motivating people, when it comes to exciting people, inspiring them, getting them to take action, like that is such a big part of the puzzle. Not only when it comes to getting ourselves to do this, because obviously we have to be able to model our own behavior for others, but also getting other people inspired to take action. And not in a way that means like just when we're on a one-on-one coaching session, I can inspire you. I'm talking about long-term inspiration where I can help dig into what's going on in your life, what you really want to create, what you want to blast through. And as a result, it actually pulls you through, not just when I'm present, but also for the entire rest of the week when I'm not. And that's what I want to teach you guys here today. So Teresa and I are going to share 10 different ways that you can get yourself and your team motivated for the long term. So guys, welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. We help entrepreneurs become modern leaders so they can excel both personally and professionally without burning themselves out or sacrificing family time. If you're new, definitely consider subscribing. Now, we do this via shorter videos on Mondays and Thursdays that my main boy, Kurt, who's manning the chat today, what he does for us on Mondays and Thursdays. And then we have longer episodes on the weekends where we dive into these topics. We help pull you through it and really design this in a more workshop-based manner where we can get some feedback from you guys live as we're going. I know we have a couple people here excited for you guys to be here. Amber, what's going on? If you are here, I want to see in the chat, if you're live, where are you listening from, all right? Because we definitely want to incorporate you, ask you questions, and really help guide you through this process yourself because everybody gets motivated a little different. Have you noticed that? Like some things that motivate you don't motivate your team or the people that you're leading or your kids or your family or your significant other. Well, that's because there's a lot of caveats to motivation, which is why we want to give you 10 different ways to motivate people here today for the long term, because you got to find the one that's like not only in your sweet spot, but also in their sweet spot too. Now, before we do this, really quickly, I want to let you guys know that we are starting a business leadership book club. It's going to be 1,000% free. Let me get you this link to it. Kurt, do you have that link? Actually, I think it might be in my notes. If you go to resources.modernleadership.us/book club, you can actually join our book club for free. What we're doing is every month, we're going to be picking a book that is based off of business and leadership, entrepreneurship, all that great stuff. And we're putting together a free book club. We're going to be doing live calls on Thursdays, a lot shorter than the calls that we're doing here, but we're going to be doing it as we read along together. So the first book is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I haven't read this book. Teresa has. She says it's like off the hook. I've talked to so many other business owners who are like, this is the one that business owners need to lean into so that they can feel daring enough to lead people, right? Because that's what we do as business owners. We're actually leaders. We're getting to influence people. We're getting them to take action, and we're getting them inspired. And we're doing it not because we want to be able to achieve success. We're doing it because we want to help other people achieve massive success. And by doing so, it does bring success to us. All right. So we're going to be doing this book club. It's going to be starting next Monday with Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. If you're not a part of that, sign up at resources.modernleadership.us/book club. I'll leave you the show inside of the captions inside of the show notes after we get done so you guys can click on that, okay? So if you don't know who we are, my name is Mark Hildebrand. This is my amazing wife, Teresa. We are, Teresa went from corporate America. I went from LAPD for 20 years. We were able to both retire by becoming multi-six-figure online coaches where we've been able to see like not only a lot of success, but make the impact that we truly want to make and do it on our own terms. And so we want to help people who are interested in creating a life of freedom like that for themselves, not creating another job that they hate, but something they really love and they enjoy. And one of the things you have to do in order to do that is be really great at inspiring and motivating people, which is why we're going to dive into that today. All right. So that being said, let's jump right in. Teresa is going to share number 1. We're going to go back and forth all the way down number 10. Now, I do want to say one caveat. I know I'm talking a lot here today. This is the coach approach. What do I mean by that? Well, as a leader, as a business owner, like we can actually go out there, we can inspire, we can like point directions, we can show people what our vision is and whatnot. But it isn't really true leadership until we find out what other people really want and value and then help them reverse engineer it to go out and get it. All right. So while you hear this, this isn't going to be a authoritarian, I'm telling people what to do, all right? Because maybe that used to work in old leadership, but that doesn't work anymore. The way that it works now for us is really through the art of coaching, asking powerful questions. You'll hear some of those questions as we go today, but it's a lot about you finding what like really connects with them and then getting them to take action and not only like make a decision, but also take action towards that, not because they're doing it for you, but because they're doing it for themselves and for their family, all right? So let's dive right into number one. Teresa, you ready to go? Sorry, I had a little bit of a pre-workout this morning. Didn't get much sleep last night.
I am. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy you guys are here. So yeah, let's jump into number one. And like Mark alluded, this is really based on coaching. And the number one thing that I have here is really just kind of like a statement that we say, and that is tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. So this is really getting into kind of people's deeper motivations and just really it's based off of just asking people just to expand on things because we don't want to assume that they're motivated in a certain way. Like Mark said, people are motivated in a lot of different ways. People have internal motivations, and we just want to know more about that so that we can help motivate them in the proper way. So getting into more of the details of maybe what they have going on and how we can help lead them. So finding people's personal motivations is simply by saying, tell me more about that and just getting to know that person. Because as leaders, we don't just mentor, we get to know each individual person. And of course, when you have a large organization, that's not always possible. But if you create a culture of, understanding and this culture of, hey, everybody is important and everybody has a voice and we want to hear that, then that's the type of leadership that really can move people forward and can move organizations forward, can move businesses forward.
I love that. And what kind of like this brings up for me is like the idea of telling me more about that is like, don't just settle for what they're telling you on the surface level. Okay. Mm-hmm. So somebody could come up to you and they can say like, hey, I'm not motivated. And it would be very easy for you to give them, which if you're mentoring, you'd be giving them the 3 steps they need to take to actually get out, read books, be around the right people and all that kind of stuff, which is great information, but you have no idea if that's actually what they're struggling with. I don't know, like I know for me personally, and I know it happened for Teresa like hundreds of times, is when somebody says they're not motivated and you get to the root of it and you find out it's something that is like totally different than actually having a lack of motivation. Sometimes it's like they're not having boundaries. They're not setting up boundaries in their life. They're having this issue with their schedule, or they have like a feeling that they're not good enough to do these things. And what that does is it bundles up in like, I'm just not motivated, right? And so when you ask them to tell you more, it's you being willing to not just settle for like surface level, but to get deeper and really get to the root of what's holding them back. A big part of what we teach inside of the Push Coach Certification School is called causal coaching, which means we get to the root of actually what's holding people back. So what people tell us in the beginning is not generally what's holding them back. It's the story they're telling themselves that's making them manifest that situation. But when we can get in and we can say, tell me more about that. Like, what's the problem with that? Like some of the other questions that we're going to talk about here today, right? We can get to the root of what actually is holding them back. And I can't tell you that when you're not rushing to get people to like get them motivated, and instead you're getting deeper into like, why is it that they feel unmotivated, right? What is it that's happening in the outside world that's making them feel this way? Then what you can do is you can actually help them solve this problem for the long term, all right? So I definitely love that one. Great job on that one, Teresa. Okay. My first one is find out what they really want to create. Get them past their head voice, and sometimes that even means 5 years from now. Here's what I mean, okay? So finding out what they really want will get them to get away from their head, which is lack, scarcity, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, how am I gonna make this possible? How, like, I don't know enough people, I'm not good enough on video, that's head voice, right? That'll get us into scarcity, lack, and we'll actually be manifesting that in the world. But if instead I ask you, like, what do you really want? It helps you get to this place of like your heart, where it's going to be the future, the potential, purpose, hope, all of these great things of like what you want to create in the world, right? Now, here's the caveat to this. Everybody's a little different in terms of how far they have to go before their heart takes over. If I tell you, what do you want at the end of this month? Your head is still going to say, well, based off of where I'm at right now, like I can probably get right here. it's so hard to get out of our head, right? We think that business is a straight trajectory, right? It ain't like that. It ain't like that. It's like losing weight. It's like you lose 5 pounds, then you gain 1, and then you lose 6 pounds and you gain. It's like that's the way the business is. It's up and down like this, right? And so when you lean into that and you go, it doesn't matter that I had this amount and I grew this much. I could actually, 10x that if I decided to, if I started taking different actions, right? But it's hard to do that because our head doesn't want us to like live out of uncomfortableness. It wants us to stay comfortable. It wants us to continue doing what we've always done so that we can continue getting what we've always gotten. Because for that's its purpose, right? It's to keep us safe. It's like, well, if I keep doing this, I mean, obviously I'm safe, right? I'm 45. I haven't I'm still here on this planet. So I should continue doing what I've been doing. So I'll be safe. And when you do something new, your brain's like, wait, nope. This is like, what's going to happen? Like, I mean, what if people ridicule you? What if you lose it all? What if like, this is the demise. This is like you fall crashing into the ground. What if people like think that you like don't have it together? By the way, we don't have it together, but I know I just kind of talked about this, but like, I don't think I got any like 2 hours of sleep last night, and I'm like running off of steam right now. But this is just the way that life is. Like life is 50-50. This is the 50% that sucks, right? This isn't the 50% that's good. But I'm still coming here and I'm still showing up, right? Because I know that in my heart, what I want to create, the impact that I want to make, how I like literally close my eyes before this. And I'm like picturing, okay, Amber's on this call and, Shelly's on this call and, Trisha's on this call and John is on this call. And I'm thinking about like the impact that this message is going to make for them and for their family. And now I'm like, okay, game time, let's go, right? Because I'm on a different level. I'm not leaning into my head. Now, what I say by however many years is sometimes if you have had a head voice that is like really loud, that tells you you're not good enough, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough followers, you don't have enough blank. If you move the goal out further, 5 years, it will slowly eliminate your head voice, because 5 years from now, like you could get started 4 years from now and you could create what you want to create in 5 years, honestly, right? And so it's not immediate. It's not like I have to actually take action right now. It's like if I were to move the goal out 5 years, paint a picture for me. If I could remove all the obstacle, all the pain, all the struggle, what do you really want in your life? What would your life look like? I do this exercise sometimes with my one-on-one clients where I'm like, paint me a picture. When do you wake up? Who are you around? What are you doing? More importantly, what are you not doing? Where are you doing that? Like, and you're just like, I'm just asking these questions to get people to go, okay, well, right now, like I'm on vacation in Hawaii. But I also wanted to wake up and do a coaching call this morning because I love coaching so much. And then I do this and I do this on the beach and I take my kids to the volcano and I do this. Like literally you can create that for yourself. And it just feels so amazing when you're in that time space. And then you can reverse engineer it into the actions that it takes. But even just leaning into that vision, when you're at 5 years, your head voice kind of like disappears. For some people, it's 10 years. Like whatever that is, this gives you the opportunity to dream and figure out what you truly want. So if you're trying to motivate somebody and they're thinking about what's going to happen before tomorrow, their head voice is going to be super loud. But I want you to like help them expand that. Ask them, what do you want it to be a year from now? What do you want it to look like 5 years from now? Paint a picture for me. Like you stay consistent the way you are right now. Paint a picture for me of what this is going to bring for you in 5 years. Then people start to light up, right? Because they bring that thought into the present moment. Now, we don't have time to like really dive into like master coaching techniques. So I'm the master coach instructor inside of our program. But one of the things I talk about a lot is like sometimes going on the vacation is not as good as thinking about going on the vacation and scheduling the vacation out. Anybody with me? Can I get an amen? Like you think about like how awesome it's going to be, how the kids are not going to be fighting. They're just going to be so excited and so happy. Everything's going to go great. All your food's going to be great. The flight's going to go great. It's not going to be, and then it gets here and you're like, dude, it was so good in my head. That's because you get to actually experience it before you go. The more you stay in the visioning, the more you stay in like, oh man, this is how it's going to be. It is so incredible. And then when it happens, it's going to be good, but it's not going to be as good as it is right now. So why wouldn't you allow yourself to do that? Why would you allow yourself to dream every single day about it so that you can have this awesome feeling so that when you get there, you're like, I already had great fun. I'm not even here yet, but once I get here, yes, it's going to be fun, but sometimes it's even more fun in the process. And that's how powerful our thoughts are. So when you can pull people out 5 years from now, that's what you get them to do. You get them to experience it right now. They don't have to wait 5 years. They can experience it right now. And that, my friends, is inspiration of the best kind because they are painting the picture and they're experiencing it right now because of the questions you asked them. All right, that was number 2. Ready to get number 3?
Yeah, and it's really about the anticipation, right? Like you said, you bring that future that they still have hope for, and you bring it into the present. And I mean, my number two is exactly the same thing. It was about, if asking them if they could achieve anything, if they had no obstacles or struggles, what would that be? And this is really, like Mark said, getting into that heart voice and letting people just dream, get out of the day-to-day struggles, because we all, struggle from time to time. And because that can really demotivate people when like you're in that valley, right? Where you haven't gotten that momentum yet, where you're not like going up that hill. So getting people into the mode of the possibilities and that anticipation, like the vacation, right? Then that can really motivate people. But it's a consistent thing. It's a habit, right? So, but that's just, just reiterating what you just said.
Yeah. And I do love this one. I do think it's a little bit different because it's kind of like this question of like, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? Mm-hmm. So if you couldn't fail, what would you do? How would you show up? There's no way you could fail. What would you do? Mm-hmm. And I love that approach of things because here's the thing, like when it comes to failure, and whenever I have a one-on-one client and they tell me that they failed, I always have them define what failure is. And what I get 99% of the time is when I stop and I quit and I never try again. And I ask them, which part of that are you failing at right now? And they're like, then I'm not failing at anything. I'm like, so why are you choosing to believe that you're failing? You're either doing one or two things. Number one is you're doing it right, or number two is you're learning and growing. So that's why this question is so powerful, is like, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? Because then it's time to go do that thing, because you can't really fail. The only thing you can fail at is if you do it and then you never do it ever again. That's the only way that you can fail, and that's failing by default, right? But if we do it and we grow, and even if we make an adjustment and do it a little differently next time, that's the way that success looks like. So I love that one so much. Okay, number two. Number two for me, and number four for both of us, right, is ask them the kind of impact this will have on them, their family, and the world. So here's the thing. We're all wired a little differently, all right? We're wired a little differently. Some of us have like this internal desire to really create something for ourselves. And it's like this really, it comes from this great place. And I don't mean like selfish. I mean, we all need to be a little selfish. I mean, like they're here because they're like, this is going to make a huge impact in my life. And if that's the kind of thing that you need that like really motivates you, lean into that. There's nothing right or wrong about any of these three different ways. But there's two other ways that you can lean into depending on where and how you're wired. The second is like, what is this going to do for your family? What's the impact that it's going to make in their lives? What is it going to make possible for you and your family that's not possible right now? These questions are for people like me who are family driven and family focused. And so if you tell me that my business is going to help me be able to create this vacation that I was talking about in Hawaii, where I'm able to do some coaching, but also able to do all these other things with my family, I'm like, I will do that every single day of the week. I would love to have those kind of experiences and moments with my family that they will never forget ever. Not even when I'm here, not here on this planet anymore, they will still remember those experiences, right? So that is my version of that. So if you are coaching me and you're trying to motivate me, then you would be like, hey, Mark, like what kind of impact is this going to make in your family when you stay true to this? I'm going to be like, I'm all in. Where do I have to sign up? Like I'm ready to go, right? And the third type is for people who like are really mission driven. Is like, what kind of impact is this going to make in the world? This is like some of those like, what do they call like nonprofits, right? Some of those people who are like putting water in places that don't have running water, right? Offering education to people who don't have any formal education, right? Going to different countries and really helping make an impact, right? And these are for those mission-driven people of like, this is the impact it's going to make in the world, right? And it will drive them to do things they typically wouldn't do if it was just for them. Now, every single person will be tugged by one a little bit more than the others, but the other ones are also powerful too. That's why I ask this in the trifecta. I say, what will this do for you, for your family, and for the world? Because I want to see like at that moment, where do they pick up and where do they go, the world, this is going to be a huge impact in the world. Or for me, this is going to be able to do this for me. And then this is going to be able to help me like connect better with my family than ever before. And so I use all three of those ways to motivate people because I know that everybody has a slight different way of like finding their heart voice. And so I frame it in that respect, right? If you're leading a lot of people, you can't just lead with what is this going to do for your family? I love that because it's my like core value, one of my core values is family, and that's important, but I'm going to like alienate or not motivate everybody else. But what if I ask them, what is it going to do for them? And is it going to do for the world? And then we have those people who have a couple of them that like fuel. And so it gives you more of an opportunity to motivate and inspire people by asking them those different questions in those 3 areas. So don't just stick to one. As a leader, remember, we have to motivate the masses with no strings attached. Meaning we're here to be the light in the times of darkness, and for everybody who is willing to get our light, right? We are there to shine it bright, whether or not they decide to accept our light or not. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that we can motivate people in a way that isn't just one type of person. And how we do that, how I do that as a leader, is I plug into all 3 of these questions, and I usually will ask it at the same time. Because you'll hear, after you say it out loud, you'll hear back from them what is most important to them in that moment. In that moment, they're going to be like, yes, this is going to be awesome for my family. It's going to be able to create this life of freedom. Now you know what makes them tick. So you want to lean in and double down on that. All right. All right. Number 5.
I love that. Okay. So the next one is a question of what can I support you with? And this is really about helping people know that they have someone in their corner, that they know that they can count on you as someone who can help them when they need it. That can be very motivating, because when you know you can reach out to someone and they can lend you a hand, they can lend you an ear, they can be there to support you in any way they can, even if it's not like, hey, they're going to tell you what to do. They're not going to mentor you. They're just going to listen and just be there to really support you is really motivating. Because when you feel alone, when you feel like you don't, when you're, let's say you're at a job, you're at an organization, and you're kind of like working in silos, and you just feel like what you're doing is not important. You start to think about the things and the ways that your bosses or whatever think of you as a person, or think of kind of like the team. And having this as, a question in your back pocket for someone, even with a client, you can ask them, like, how can I support you with this? Because it's not always about, hey, I'm going to tell people what to do because they need the steps. It's more of, well, what do they want? What do they want as far as support? And the perfect question to ask is, what can I support you with? And then they can tell you from there. Maybe they won't want to, but at least you offered that.
Yeah, I love whenever you're talking, because you always bring up like so many really great points that like I wasn't going to make, but I wanted to make it. So I have a question for you guys, all right? And this is like a question that's based off of what Teresa just shared right now. And that is, what is something you want to accomplish, and how can I help support you on that mission? I want you to think about this. Your leader, all right, who is leading you, doing all this other stuff that they have going on, growing, like working on their business, doing everything else. Your leader comes up to you and goes, you know what, Amber, how can I best support you like on your mission? Like, what is something that you want to learn? What is a skill you want to develop? And how can I support you on that mission? Question, how does that make you feel when your leader asks you that? I don't know about you, but when my leaders do, I feel motivated as hell. I'm like, are you serious? Like, they're on my side? So every time Josh sends me a message and says, Mark, what is your specific goal that you want to achieve? And how can I help support you in that? I'm like, I'll get behind you every single day, because if you're willing to slow down and ask me that question, that means that you actually care about me, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to like be led by you, right? Such a powerful question when you can just ask your people that. And it's the same thing you could do. You don't have to have, you could have like your customers you could reach out to and say, hey, what is your specific goal with this program or this product? And how can I best support you? Another great question that's kind of popping into my head right now is when I have a one-on-one call, one of the questions that I ask him is like, what are the 2 to 3 skills that you have to excel at in order to be able to hit this goal? And what is something that I can do to help support you and teach you these skills while we're in process? And literally what I'll do is after that, I will design calls for people when somebody's working with me one-on-one. I will design calls for them to literally learn and develop and become a master of those skills, right? So what are the 2 to 3 skills that you want to excel at, and how can I step in and help teach you those things? And people are like, Mark, I'd really love to know how to speak. I really love how to do a podcast. I would really love to know how to do a YouTube channel. I really want to know how to coach people. I really want to know how to do this. And like literally I will design something for them. And I can't tell you how people feel when that happens. And I know this because when it happens to me, when I have a mentor, if I'm working one-on-one with somebody and I ask them some questions like that, and they ask me some questions like that, and then they help reverse engineer it, I'm like, wow, these are incredible leaders. They're actually caring about what I have, what I want to create, and it just creates this like crazy amount of motivation and inspiration in me. So I love that. Great job. I keep saying great job, but you always do great job. All right. So number 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. What number is this? Okay. So this is going to be number 6. And that is, what have they tried to do before that didn't work? Here's the thing. I want them to know that what they did that didn't work had nothing to do with them, and it had everything to do with the system that didn't work. So let me take a step back. All right. When it comes to health and fitness, is there one right, best, only way to lose weight? I mean, is there just like insanity, right? That's the only workout that you could do to lose weight. Everything else sucks, right? And if anybody else has to do anything else, they must suck, right? Well, what happens is our brain kind of tricks us into thinking that. So if our friend does this workout program and we do the same one, and it's something that we can't follow, it's something that's not in alignment with what we want to do, we're not healthy enough to do that high level activity, we don't like that food in it, what we tend to do is we tend to say that there's something wrong with me and it must not be possible for me. Instead, I try to help people see that it's not the actual program, or the actual, like the fact that they did it. It was the fact that it's the system or the program that didn't align with what they, like, not only what motivates them and inspires them, but what they are capable of doing. Here's what I mean by this. Like, there is no positive that comes from shaming or guilting or humiliating yourself by trying something and allowing it to not work. That is like the greatest thing that you've ever done, is like lean into things, getting uncomfortable, trying it and having it not work. Now, I don't mean trying it for a day or for a week. I mean, you try it for like a solid month. For me, I do it a year. I say for a year, I'm leaning in to YouTube, going all in with YouTube. And then I'll make an adjustment if I decide when I get to that point, right? But it's not that it would be YouTube or that it would be Mark that didn't work. It was more like, this really wasn't my thing. I can tell you that was my jam when it comes to like Instagram and Facebook. Like, I dislike marketing. I hate it. I don't like sharing my day-to-day activities. I don't like sharing what I eat that day. I don't like sharing like some of the family stuff. I'm like, oh, guess what? I did a Spartan race. Like, I do that because it's like a necessary evil, but also I don't love doing that, which is why you see me here more. You don't get me live on Instagram and Facebook. You get me, hey, come over to YouTube and watch me here, because this is my jam. I love it. I enjoy it. If you can't tell, it motivates me to do things that I love to do in a space that I know that I'm impacting people's lives, right? And if I had just settled with, well, I guess I'm not good at marketing, so I guess I'll never be a good coach or I'll never have a successful business, I wouldn't have the ability of retiring from my police career and now getting to work full-time at home with my beautiful wife, where we could just go, hey, you want to watch Guardians of the Galaxy yesterday? And we could just go out and do that, right? But it took that energy and effort of putting it into it and realizing that if that thing didn't work, and I really did go all in with it, there's a caveat there. I really did go all in and try it. Like, it has nothing to do with me, right? It just has to do with the system, and it's just a big science project, right? Like, what if you treated your life like one big science project? I say that all the time because it's one of those things that we need to be reminded of. Instead of making it mean something about us, what if we just said, oh, this is one big science project, that didn't work, right? That didn't make the volcano explode. Maybe I need to add more sulfur dioxide. I don't even know. I'm getting out of my niche right now, right? But like, who knows, right? It's just one big science project. And the more things we try and see what works, and when it does explode, we're like, hey, it works, right? Well, we've tried a million different things, and we've realized that if we try to shame or guilt ourselves, or we don't allow people to understand that it's not them, it's the system, and maybe there's a new system for them to try and a different solution to the thing, not just giving up, like, we get them to feel inspired and motivated because we give them this 4-letter word that is called hope. Like, hope is one of those things that is so powerful for a leader. Like John Maxwell says, leaders are dealers in hope. If you're giving your people hope that it's possible, that there's something else out there that they can 100% do it, then you are the type of leader that I want to follow behind, right? I want to like literally follow you wherever you go if you give me hope that it's possible, because we know that over time we will be able to achieve success as long as we continue taking action and we keep evolving and learning and growing along the way, right? So anything that gets us off track, including shame, guilt, or humiliation, is the opposite of leadership. And we do not want to do that. All right. So number 7, up to you.
I love that so much. It's hope and grace, right? Like giving them hope, but then also allowing them to just understand that that's not the thing. So let's
Yeah.
move on. Let's do the other experiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next one is a little kind of on the flip side. So this question is, do you have any recent challenges that you have successfully tackled and would like to share as a valuable lesson that could be helpful to others?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is empowerment. This is giving someone, first off, a way for them to really tap into their heart voice. It's really about kind of celebrating their wins, or understanding that even if it's something really small, they did it and they succeeded. So having them think about this, and then actually giving them a platform to share that with others so they can inspire others, so that they can be the motivators. That is super powerful, right? Because maybe you are the leader, but you're also creating leaders. And then you give them the mic, per se, so that they can motivate others as well, and that they could develop that skill. So giving them that challenge to think about, what is it that you did? And it doesn't matter what that is, as long as they feel that they were successful and that this is something that they could pass on to others that would help them. That is something really incredible that can happen. And that's how you start creating leaders. You start developing leaders.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like that question because it brings them back into when has there been a time that you've actually succeeded at something hard that you've done, right? So many times as business owners, we kind of get trapped into thinking well, I haven't reached this level yet, so how am I going to be able to help people? When in reality, when you think about the challenges, the struggles, the things you've been through, it literally will reframe you. I was having a one-on-one conversation with an incredible coach/nurse, and it's very easy to get trapped in well, I don't have a ton of experience right now when it comes to coaching people to six-figure, businesses. But I'm yeah, but if you had, let's say you're having a conversation with a nurse who just got started right now. They're really in the beginning phase of their journey. Would you be able to help them? Would you be able to maybe help them create a side hustle so they don't have to work all that overtime or have to get that much stress or have all this kind of stuff? And they're absolutely, I would. I'd be this, and this, and this. I'm so you've gone through some incredible things in this huge, nursing journey that you have. You've learned so much from it, but all of a sudden we start business and we're I don't know anything. And it's no, you come with all of these pre-packaged amazing things that you've been able to accomplish, but you got to slow down and ask yourself that question, right? Or ask the people that you have around you that are feeling demotivated. So if you have somebody who's they're not feeling it's possible for them. They're I've tried this and it hasn't worked. I want you to ask them that question. Tell me about something hard that you did. And how did you stay true to it and stay consistent with it and ultimately get past it because you were willing and you made a decision and then you took that massive action, right? And now they're going to go back into a time that happened and they're going to be oh, this happened, right? I became a mom. I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this. And you're you see, you've done this before. It's just that this mountain seems bigger than the mountain that you had before, but it's not the case. It's just because this is your current mountain that you're climbing right now, right? But you know the terrain, you know what shoes to wear, you know what cardio to do, you know how much water you know where to take breaks, you know how to do all that stuff. So you've gained so much knowledge coming over here. And yes, is there things to grow in here? Absolutely. But you also shouldn't use that against you because there's always going to be things to grow. I don't care what you have, right? Josh and I, we teamed up when we created a push coach certification school, right? And he has $1 million business. And he's the same way. He's how do we get to 10 million? How do I help 500 life coaches this year, right? Right now, I think we have 130, right? Which is a freaking great number. And it blows my mind. I'm there's 130 incredible humans, many of the ones that are here on this call, who are out there impacting people's lives, motivating them, getting them to tap into their heart voice and not their head. And by doing that, it's making a huge impact. But we want more. We want to help even more people. We want to go to 500 and 1,000 and 10,000 and fill a stadium full of our life coaches who are out there impacting the world, right? And so there's always another level to grow. So thinking that you're having to grow right now makes it terrible. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to feel terrible for the rest of your life maybe because you have to continue to grow into that next level. It's a great thing. It's not something that feels like lack. It should feel that's awesome. I got to where I am right now. Where am I going to be when I grow 6 months from now? Where am I going to be a year from now, right? When I look at a mark from a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 11 years ago when I started my business, I'm I'm an entirely different human. I don't even talk the same anymore. I don't say and as much. I do say literally a bunch, just ask Kurt. But besides that, everything else is perfect. No, it's not perfect. He just does a really good job of editing my stuff. But it's all about what is that next level of growth, getting 1% better. All right. So my next one is help them identify their core values and what is really important in their lives. Teresa and I don't think Teresa did this one. It was just me, where I talked about like goal setting at the beginning of this year. It was a live. I'll have to go back and I will put it up in the show notes for you guys to rewatch. But I talked about identifying your leadership core values before you define your goals. And the reason why that's so important is because we need to define what is most important to us, right? Some people call these priorities. Did you know that the word priority was only supposed to be one priority? And then all of a sudden now we're priorities. We got like multiple ones. Anyway, when you can define like what your real priorities are, what your core values are, what you like near and dear to your heart means that is like super important to you, you can, number one, live within your core values. But number two, when you identify other people's core values, you can help them in their core values too. Give you an example. So if you're talking to me, I have 4 core values. Mine is integrity, it's health, it's family, and it's impact. Okay? Those are the 4 things. If I'm doing something and it's in alignment with one of those 4 things, I feel on fire. If I do something out of that, I feel like a lack of integrity. I feel like, why am I doing this, right? I'm not making an impact. I'm not leading with integrity. I'm not like making my family a priority, and I'm not making my health a priority. Then I'm like, I should not be doing this, and it makes me feel like crap. As a leader, you can help people by saying and identifying what their values are and then making sure they live within it. So if you're asking them to do something that's outside of their values, which might be, because sometimes we have to do things or we have to assign people to do things that might not be like within their personal like values. We don't necessarily want to do that. Maybe we can give it to somebody else. Maybe we can find a way of actually explaining it in a way that actually makes it feel like it is in their values, right? And once we do this, once we identify like what makes people tick, we can really help like along that process, right? So if one of my core values is family, right? And Josh reaches out to me and he says, Mark, we need to create this, and this. Can you get on a life coaching session with this person, this person? And I'm like, absolutely, brother. But today is date day. I'll be able to do that tomorrow. And he gets back to me and he says, 0 worries at all. Tomorrow it is, right? Because he knows that my core value is family. And if family is like, I'm on a date day with Teresa, I'm not going to be taking time out to get on a coaching call. It's going to be like something I can absolutely prioritize tomorrow. But he also knows that. What would happen if he's like, okay, bro, like that's cool, but you need to do this right now. Like this is a lighter, like a night or day thing. Like I need you to do this right now. Now there might be some caveats where that might happen. But with him, I know it's never going to happen because he makes sure that I live within my core values, right? And so he empowers me by saying, no worries at all. We'll figure something else out because I know your family's super important. Lean into that, right? And how does that get me to show up the next day? It gets me to show up on fire because I'm like, I have somebody who's a leader who's supporting me on my mission to actually kill these core values and knock them out of the park. I'm wanting to do whatever like I can do to help him in the process of being able to live within my core values. But you can't help people live within their core values if you haven't helped them identify them. Some of it's like some questions you can ask, which is inside of that live call that we did, the replay that I will link up in the show notes. But also some of it is just like being observant. Do they talk about family all the time? Do they have pictures on their desk? Do they like talk about the dreams that they have in the future? Do they talk about like, the impact that they're making in people's lives? Like what are they talking about? What is like when you see them light up, what causes them to light up? And when you like lean into that, you're like, oh, so that's one of their core values. Because every time we talk about it, it lights them up. Then you got to ask yourself, how do I do that more often? And how do I make sure that I always give them things that are in alignment with their core values, or I can at least identify how they are, right? Because some people don't see that doing this thing is in alignment with their core values. And if you can like communicate it that way, you will get people motivated, inspired to be led by you. Okay. All right. Last 2.
Yeah. So, okay. Second to last question. This is another question. And and the dishwasher's going off again.
It's okay. We got to wash dishes over here in the Hildebrand household.
All right. Okay. So the question is, what are the most important characteristics you'd want in a mentor? So this is really, it's really asking that because you really care about the impact you want to make in someone's, journey, and asking them, like basically it's kind of like another question, like how can I support you, or what can I support you with? It's more of like, what do you want from me as far as a mentor, right? And I think it might be a tricky question for people, but this can help motivate people in a way that they understand that maybe there are certain things that motivate and some things that they don't. So they can be upfront with you so that it could really benefit them. So being like, these are really like questions about being open and very caring questions, because you are building relationships. As a leader, it's important to build relationships and understanding people on a deeper level, and getting to be their guide, their support person, and their cheerleader, their motivator. It's important to ask these questions. So, you can even help them out with, some characteristics on that, because maybe you might stump someone. But this question can be very, very motivating.
Yeah. And I think also, like, when you're coming at it from a leadership perspective of like, how can I get better for you? I think it just puts a different flip on things. So if you ask them, okay, when it comes to motivating you, what are some of the things that I have done in the past that really motivates you? And what are some of the things that I've done in the past that doesn't motivate you, that actually may have demotivated you? Now, this is one of those questions where it takes a little bit of like a swallowing of your ego and of your pride. But if you really want to help motivate people and you want to find what makes them tick, why don't you ask them? This is a key component of all the programs and stuff that Josh and I teach, is like, instead of like thinking in your head how perfect it's going to be, why don't you just ask the humans and they will tell you, right? So this comes from everything. Like if I was putting together YouTube videos, which I happen to be doing, I would be asking you guys, what is it that you want to learn from me the most? Like what kind of results would you like to have at the end of this video? Which I do all the time. I do it on my email list. I do it on social media because I want to like actually speak to the humans and get them to tell me, I would like to learn this, this, and this. But this is a powerful one. It's like, when you've been motivated most by me, what is it that I'm doing or saying that makes you feel that way? And also, when you aren't motivated by me, when you feel like even less energy, what are some of the things that I'm doing or saying that make you feel that way? Now, this is one of those things where you're asking for a feedback. You want them to feel okay at giving you feedback, right? So you don't want to be like, oh, well, just deal with it, right? And I know you guys wouldn't do that, but you got to remember that when you're getting constructive criticism, it hurts sometimes. That's just the ego. But remember, we're trying to get better. If we find out what actually can motivate people more and stop doing the things that demotivate them, that makes us a better leader. And I'm willing to do that every day of the week. I remember having a conversation with Andrew and Alyssa. It's one of the days that we were eating dinner. And I'm like, what are the 3 words that when you think of daddy, what are the 3 words that come into your mind? I don't remember exactly what their words were. I think my son was like hot sauce. I don't know, because I was talking about hot sauce a lot. I really liked hot sauce back before I had Crohn's. But it was like, I wanted to really find out to them, what are the 3 words? Because if one of them was work, I'm on the wrong path. Okay. If Andrew's like work, phone, and work, I would be like, okay, this is a red flag, Mark. Let's figure something out, right? Because kids, especially when they're younger, I remember asking them when they're younger, they have this filter that they just bleh. They don't have a filter, actually. They're like, let me tell you all the things, right? But maybe it's funny, farts, and whatever, whatever your thing is. It's right. It's don't you want to know? I mean, isn't it better than just going la, 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 and then never knowing what you can do to improve? And this is the same way. So really diving into when you feel most motivated by me, what is it I'm saying or doing that makes you feel that way? And make sure that they're okay, letting them know hey, I just want to be the best leader that I can be for you. So I love when you give me kudos, but at the same time, I want to become better. So if you have any constructive criticism, any type of feedback, I would love to hear it. And I promise you, I'm not going to hold anything against you. As a matter of fact, it's going to make me respect you even more because now you're going to be telling me what I can do to grow. And that's what I'm all about. Remember, this is all about leadership, guys. And leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And the best way you can influence people is actually modeling the behavior for them. So if you're asking them for feedback and you're getting it and it's not comfortable feedback for you to get, how does that model for them when you give them feedback that's not so comfortable? We all have to do it. We have to give feedback that's not always the greatest. How we communicate it matters, but also, are we willing to accept feedback ourselves? Because if we're not willing to accept that kind of what people would term as negative feedback, which I don't really think there is any. But if like we're afraid of that, like how are we going to be able to give that and allow them to accept it, right? It's kind of like what my son says is like, don't be a hypocrite, Alyssa, because you say something and then you say something over here. It's the exact opposite of it, of what you actually do, right? So definitely lean into that. All right, let's get into the last one. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to just say that it's just really cultivating a culture of growth for everyone, right? Because you are the leader, but you're still growing, right? If you're not growing anymore, then you're not really a leader. So it's just emphasizing the importance of growth.
I love that. And I'm actually going to write something down. There's a video that I did early on that actually is kind of taken off on YouTube. It talks about like why people keep secrets from you, why like your people at work, your team, your kids, your significant other, people like that, like why they are too afraid to tell you the truth. And it's kind of one of those things where sometimes it's like, man, I wish I didn't know the truth. But later you always want to know the truth because you're like, I couldn't get any better and I couldn't change that, right? Have you ever had that where like you've done a video for like an hour and a half and then like somebody comes on like at 2 hours and says, dude, you have like a piece of like something in your teeth. And you're like, why didn't you tell me that? Or you walk into a room and your fly's down the whole time. And then like, 3 hours later, they're like, hey bro, your fly's down. You're like, what? Why didn't somebody tell me this earlier? That's the same thing, right? But you have to create this environment. It's called psychological safety. I'll also leave you that video inside of the show notes. It's a shorter one, but it really talks about creating an environment where people feel safe to share those kind of details with you. It's not something that the first time you ask them a question, they're going to feel okay and comfortable to respond and tell you the things that are kind of like going on, right? They need to test the waters first. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that you create an environment that's safe for them, all right? So we'll definitely hit that one up too. All right, the last one. And this is a question that you should always ask. I don't want to say always because there's never always, right? This is a question that you should really think about asking when it comes to like somebody who's going to take on an action that kind of like scares them, going to take on maybe buying a program, going to take on like something that's uncomfortable, something that might create a little bit of fear or humiliation or guilt or the thought of like what's going to happen afterwards. And that is, what are you most excited about? And what are you most afraid of? So if somebody's about to become, like, let's say a life coach. So every quarter we open up our life coach school and we take on new people who want to become life coaches and build a business around coaching other people when it comes to like the causal coaching, getting to the root of what's actually keeping them stuck. Well, when we do that, people are always like, oh man, I'm just so nervous about doing this. Like, am I good enough? Do I have enough money to do this? Is this something I'm going to be able to do with my current business? Because maybe I'm an MLM and maybe I'll like, what is this going to do for like, how am I going to be able to make the calls, time, money, energy, all this kind of stuff, right? And that is like the stuff that makes you afraid. But a lot of times, if we are afraid of asking people questions when it comes to that, we're never going to know what it is they're actually afraid of, but also what it is that excites the crap out of them. And so I always ask these two questions. Number one is like, what are you most afraid of? And you gotta like, your head voice is definitely gonna come out when somebody asks you this question. What are you most afraid of? I can hear it all the time. I'm going to take this certification. I'm either not gonna pass or I'm not gonna implement any of it. Now, I have to say we have like a 98% completion rate. The other 2% are like people who come for like once or twice and then never show up again. The other 98% complete it. And at the end, I would say, I would say 100% of people say their life has been changed. I have never heard one of our life coaches out of 133 people who said like, oh, this is cool. This is good information. Everybody comes back and says, my life has been forever changed because you helped rewire what's in here and you helped me find out how I was self-sabotaging, how I was not getting myself to take action, but most importantly, also how I can help other people, including my family, to really get up and get after it, to take action and to stop beating themselves up, right? And so when I ask them like, hey, what are they most afraid of? It helps me see that they're afraid of the same thing that all of the other 98% were. It's like, I don't know if this is going to be possible for me. I don't know if I'm going to be a good coach. I don't know if I'm going to be good at asking questions. It's just like, well, I don't know. Are you like, are you not a human, right? If you're a human, that means you can learn a skill. And if I teach you a skill, you can go out and use it every day of the week. And are you going to be good at it or great at it when you first get started? No. The first time I rode a bike, I remember I went over a thing of leaves and I turned the handlebar this way and I flipped over it. My mom had to come grab me and run me home because I had like a big split on my chin. But I also got back on the bike the next day and I'm pretty good at biking right now, right? And it's the same thing we do when we first start walking, but it's that part of the process of like, if I had never asked them what they're most afraid of, I would have never known. And I would have never been able to talk to them about that and get them to know that like, this is what a lot of people feel. As a matter of fact, I think most of the people inside of our Post Coach certification school said the same thing. I know Amber was talking here. Like Amber's a PCCS graduate as well, and she's a life coach, and she has this awesome not only ability to help people, but really get to the root of their struggles, right? And when you like think about like that kind of impact that is making, like, and she still felt like a little bit like, oh, am I going to be good enough? Is this going to be better? Like whatever. And like we all have those stories, I believe, when we join something new. It's being able to call out to them. But there's an opposite side of this. And that opposite side is like, what are you most excited about? Don't forget to ask them that too, right? What are you most excited about this new policy? What are you most excited about this new opportunity or new product line or new training or new skill or new whatever? And you can really hear, because when you ask them what they're most excited about, you can really hear their heart. And they're going to be like, oh, I'm most excited about doing this, developing a skill, being able to help people, being able to create a business, be able to have a life of freedom, do this and this and this and this. Because this is what I did. I dove into life coaching, which gave me this life of freedom that like we're able to live today, right? But if I had like just been stuck on like what I'm most afraid of, for me, it was paying like almost 5 times as much as what it costs, or actually almost 4 times as much as what it costs right now for us to certify. I paid close to $20,000 to get certified. And so my head voice was like, well, am I good enough? Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I have to put this on a credit card, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, here I am being able to take that skill and like, I would say, 50x what that specific amount of money was just because I was able to lean into it. But I also had somebody to ask me those 2 questions. What are you most afraid of? And what are you most excited about? And you know what I decided? I decided to run towards what I was most excited about and really tackle this fear with logic and think about like, oh, so everybody else was feeling this way too. Here's the thing, guys. This is what I love and hate about business. And that is like, not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody's going to make it because you're not willing to feel uncomfortable and to do it anyway. You're not willing to continue to grow. You're not willing to get to a certain point, and because you haven't had an instant success, you're going to give up and it's going to be hard. But that is also the greatest opportunity we have as business owners. Guys, what would happen if everybody on the internet ran a business and it was all successful? None of us would have any success. It would be just pure chaos. And so for me, it's kind of like a built-in system that actually helps the people who are not dedicated, the people who are not going to be willing to like sacrifice or put in the energy and effort that it takes to actually make an impact in the world, right? Those people won't. And it gives us so much great of an opportunity for the people who are like willing to lean in and to dive in and to do what it takes to grow. Now, I don't want to say this to demotivate you, but in order for me to be able to retire, it took me 11 years in the coaching business to be able to do that. Now, I'm not saying that because it's going to take you 11 years, because we also brought Teresa home in 6 years. 6 years, and then it took 5 more years because I had to wait until I had 20 years on to be able to leave LAPD. So many people ask how long this is going to take, and the right question is like, how far can I go, right? It's like not like what I want to like think about, well, if this isn't done in a year, well, then I'm going to give up. Well, that gives everybody else who's willing to fight for it longer than a year the greatest opportunity in the world, which is why when we lean into business, when we lean into motivation, when we lean into learning these skills, and you take these skills and you're able to take it to other people and help develop them, help them grow, help them have a huge impact in their life, then like Jim Rohn says, when you can help enough people get what they want, then you can have anything that you want. And it takes a little bit of getting uncomfortable. It takes you understanding this is going to be hard stuff. There's going to be times that you maybe don't necessarily feel motivated and you need to rewatch this video 37 million times. And you need to find the one that you lean into that will help inspire you and motivate you. And then you go out and you inspire the world. That is where success lies. All right. And I know you guys are here. Like everybody who's here at the end of a 55-minute live presentation is proof to me that you've got what it takes. You're here, you're ready, you're taking action, you're hopefully taking notes, and you're taking this stuff and you're going to run with it. And I appreciate you so much for that. All right, Teresa, anything else before we wind up?
No, that was that was super motivating.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. So here's the thing. You might get to this point and you might be wondering like, okay, this is great, Mark. But how do I keep myself motivated when hard things start to come up? When like things start to pop up that like are not the normal difficult things. They're actually things that are like what happened last night in my personal life. It could really like get us off track very easily. I want to let you know that I got you covered. At the end of this video, tap on the screen. I'm going to leave a video for you guys. It's going to talk about the 10 uncommon ways that you can get yourself and your team to do hard things. There's some caveats to being motivated, like when you're excited and all this great stuff. But when there's hard things to do, there's a little different of a spin on it that you have to take if you want to get yourself and your team to do hard things. And I promise you, if you get yourself and your team to do hard things, you will experience massive success. And you will be on here, you'll be having this same call with your people, telling them about this same exact thing that I'm saying, which is like, this is the greatest opportunity. I am so thankful that business is hard, because it separates the people who are really the doers, the people who are willing to get out there, really to show that they're here to like make an impact in the world, from everybody else who just says it, but is not willing to put in the energy and effort. And I thank you guys so much for being those people willing to lean in. Thank you for what you do out there every single day, and keep leading from the front. I'll see you guys, some of you guys in the book club later next week. Don't forget to sign up for that. Link will be in the show notes. I appreciate you so much. You guys have an incredible weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.